Hey, folks, welcome to episode 2 of the Curt Schilling Baseball Show. I'm Curt Schilling, and I'm going to start the show off by trying to amend for an egregious error on show number 1, and that is to introduce my counterpart, my cohort, Bill Graff. Billy, please say hello and introduce yourself.
Curt, great to be here with you. Great to talk baseball with you. And it's great that we finally have games to talk about. Yeah. Spring training's underway. Let's get it going.
Yep. So Bill is going to bring the media side and the fan side perspective to the show. He's also going to be soliciting questions from viewers on social media. So if you have something specific you want to ask about your team or a player on your team, he will be the guy to reach out to. Let's get into it. Game started. And we saw, it's kind of ironic, I guess, but I certainly expected, the new rules had monumental impact on day one of camp. We had Manny Machado as the first player in Major League Baseball history to be given a strike without throwing a pitch due to his violating the rules for stepping out. And Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, the hitter has to be in the box with 8 seconds left
and addressing the pitcher. So not just in the box, but ready to hit with 8 seconds left. He's got to be ready to hit with 8 seconds left.
Because we saw what happened when you're not at the – and this was one of those – I'm trying to picture this in the regular season. The Red Sox and Braves game, bases loaded, tie game, 6-6, bottom of the ninth, 3-2 count on the hitter. And there was confusion initially in what happened because the hitter started jogging to first as if the pitcher had violated the pitch clock. About 5 steps down, the umpire calls him and gets his attention and says, no, you're actually out for not being ready to hit with 8 seconds left. Game ends, tied, 6-6. Now, fast forward, October 15th, game 2 of the playoffs. Are we going to, I am going to ask you, Bill, I kind of know there's going to be a change of this rule.
That can't be the way a game that matters in September and October ends.
Right.
There just can't be.
Nope. And I think we're going to see some changes. Speaking quickly of Manny Machado, rumor has it that he has completed a 11-year, $350 million deal with the Padres. And if we get time later, maybe the next show, which is Friday, I want to talk a little bit about it because the day before this was announced that it was happening was the day he said he was going to be opting out of his San Diego deal. So this didn't just come up.
He forced their hand, I think.
Yeah, and my response is if a team had done that to a player, fans would be going batshit crazy.
Absolutely.
Okay, so Machado is going to get a new deal. We're going to move into an area that I have a little bit of insight on, and aptly titled on our heading, Pitchers with Arm Issues. All right? So a couple things are going on from an injury perspective and a rehab perspective in spring training, and these are the things as fans that you want to pay attention to for your team. First off is Chris Sale with the Red Sox. He apparently he faced 5 hitters through 23 pitches, and a group of guys, Verdugo, Casas, and York, and he apparently was pretty electric, had good stuff, got into some kitchens. Next step will be 2 innings of batting practice. And so real quick, I need to explain real quick as a pitcher. So there are 4 or 5 steps to getting ready for a baseball season. Each one requires a step up in physical effort. It goes from long toss to that first bullpen, from that first bullpen to the first spring training bullpen, from the spring training bullpen to spring training batting practice, from that to a spring training game, and from that to a regular season game. Every one of those jumps is an increase in effort and level, and takes time to progress to each level. So when you see that Chris Sale is throwing to hitters, that's an encouraging sign. That's a guy who might have a chance. Maybe not. Maybe he'll start a little late, but he has a chance to start and be ready opening day, which, by the way, apparently is his 34th birthday. So I would imagine he's going to go after that. A guy who, we talked about him on the first show, who I absolutely love to watch pitch when he's healthy and can pitch, Jacob deGrom. He threw, I think it was 22 pitches off the mound
yes,
on a backfield. Granted, that's exciting, but I'm not sure I can explain how far removed from where that is as to where other guys are. I know they're playing it cautious, and obviously they have to because of his track record and because of the money they've invested. But if I'm a Rangers fan, I'm not going to be shocked if Jacob deGrom doesn't break with the team. I hope he does. Again, I'm a huge fan of his. But that's a couple questions I have. If this is the first day he threw in front of everybody in spring training, why did he only throw 22 pitches? Because if he's feeling good enough to work out and throw, then you throw a long bullpen, and then, hey, I feel good. He said his arm felt great. I'll take his word for it. But the next step is I need to get on the mound in front of some hitters, or I need to throw another couple bullpens. But a 22-pitch bullpen is nothing. I mean nothing. So, I guess that means his left side isn't tight anymore. But I don't know where that puts him in the scheme of things. So watch for the big thing for Rangers fans to pay attention to is to pay attention to the first time he gets on the mound against hitters, whether it be his own or in a minor league game or whatever. But you want to see him get up to hitters. And the third guy,
I think the Rangers, Curt, talked about having him next week face batting practice.
Okay. Yeah, so if that's the case, you're talking about there's a pretty good chance he's not going to break camp because there's a lot of steps between that and pitching opening day in the big leagues. Again, and I don't want to keep caveating everything, but I do want to say this. I'm not rooting, and I'm not going to be a talk show host that you're going to get a feel that I'm rooting against them. I'm never rooting against these guys. I want them to play. They're good for the game, and all the things go with that. And I hate to have to say that, but I don't want people to. If I'm going to get personal and rag a guy, I'm not going to mix it up and make sure and confuse you. You'll know very well that I'm talking down on somebody, which rarely will ever happen. Anyway, the last guy on this list, unfortunately, I think he's been out since, it feels like 2 years since I've seen him pitch. Steven Strasburg. Now, this is a whole different level. He's not even at camp. He had thoracic outlet surgery, which basically going in, it's one of your ribs I think it's your third rib under your throwing arm is generally, or your left side is pressing on a nerve, and they'll go in and take a part of the rib out and blah, blah, blah. He apparently had that done, and he had a setback in his rehab from that. He's not in camp. I will be stunned if Steven Strasburg throws a pitch in the big leagues this year. I will be stunned. Given his history, given the soft, and I don't want to say soft, but the very slow nature of how they're going to take his rehab, I will be stunned if so, great. I hope so. I'd love to see him come back for the second half, but I don't know that I see that happening. And then kind of a late addition here, Tyler Glasnow, who had he had surgery. He came back last year. He came back. Right, yes. Right. Today, 6 pitches into batting practice, he came out, and there's an MRI scheduled for Tuesday. I've loved this kid since he got drafted. I love the arm, big, huge arm. I always looked at him kind of like a Zach Wheeler kind of guy. But 6 pitches into batting practice on his first mound exerting effort with an MRI on Tuesday is not something that is very encouraging. That is not encouraging at all for the Rays. And I said this earlier. What you need to understand as a fan or as a fantasy manager, when you see the 16-day, what is it called? The injured list now? It's the injured list, not the disabled list. Right. When you see those dates, you need to understand there's a lot of math involved, and those aren't. Like you put a guy on the 15-day injured list, he's not going to be back on the 16th day. If he's a position player, it's probably 25 days for most things on the 15-day DL because he has to get a couple of bats in the minor leagues or whatever. Some guys don't, most guys do. For a pitcher, it's completely different because you put a guy on the 15-day DL generally, or IR, injured, IL, whatever it is. Anyway, we're going to have to come up with a name for that because I'm not going to be doing that all year. I think Major League Baseball is going to come up with a different name. I hope so. But as a pitcher, that the thing to be concerned about, that 15 days, if that 15 days is shut down throwing so you get better, then, and it never works that way, but they do that anyway. That means you're not throwing for 15 days. You can't take 2 weeks off when you're up and running during the season and come back in 2 weeks. That's when you see 2 weeks and a guy gets shut down, you're talking probably 6 weeks at a minimum before that guy's back in a big league game. Excuse me. Sooner would be an optimistic thing. Longer probably happens all the time. And lastly, let me just say this. I have yet to see a pitcher with an elbow injury and they talk about the ligaments and the blood and the platelet injections and stuff like that. I've never seen a pitcher rest an elbow injury and they say, oh, we're going to rest it for a couple weeks and come back at those. That doesn't work. It's never worked, and it doesn't work. If a guy has an elbow injury and he's out, you want your guy to get surgery as soon as possible because he's going to come back as soon as possible. But the whole resting thing for an elbow injury never works. And I think a lot of times when I look at these young pitchers, I think they're being drafted now with, in the mind of the organization, an 18-month window they're not going to be available. Because everybody has Tommy John. So, hey, listen, we're drafting this kid at 19. We're probably not going to have him for 18 months in some point in the next 3 or 4 years. But this is our schedule. Because it seems like, you're seeing guys younger and younger in high school getting Tommy John. And the reason, and God bless medicine, the reason is because you come back better and healthier and throwing harder. And I, as someone who experienced the shoulder side of that, I came back throwing 4 or 5 miles an hour harder on a consistent basis because I learned about my arm. I got religion around taking care of it, and that generally is what happens after these guys get surgery. You look at Justin Verlander's a great example. He came back. He looked phenomenal last year, and all word out of New York is that he looks just phenomenal this year. I know Max Scherzer's feeling sexy because those 5 punch-outs yesterday were mid-season punch-outs.
Absolutely, Curt. Hey, time now to bring in one of your old teammates.
Yes, I'm very excited.
Let's go get Lenny Dykstra. Let's bring Nails in. It's time to talk some baseball with Nails.
Joining me now is a dear friend, a lifelong friend almost, it feels like, a guy who I had the honor and privilege of playing with, who I would call probably the 90s generation of David Ortiz in clutch, and one of the best leadoff hitters I ever saw. And I always say this, and he knows it. The two smartest baseball IQ men I ever played with were Manny Ramirez and this gentleman, Lenny Dykstra. Dude, what's up?
Hey, Phil. Good to have you. Thanks for having me.
It's good to see you, buddy. I'm glad you're so.
You sound good. You sound clear. You sound crisp. I like it.
So, real quick, you and I played together for a couple of years in Philly, and I still argue it's probably one of, if not the most famous teams ever to play in Philly. We didn't win. We still had a parade, which in Philadelphia, people that aren't from there don't understand. That just doesn't happen. But that 93 team is kind of where I started to begin my career. You were in the middle of your career, and I can remember learning so many things from you as a pitcher. Same thing as I said earlier with Manny. I learned probably as much, if not more, about pitching from great hitters. That team was sabermetrics before sabermetrics was in vogue. It was a lineup that just wore starting pitchers out, got the bullpens fast, and you were at the top of it. Talk to me a little bit about, first of all, your career progression. You were always a guy with a good eye who understood on-base percentage was the most important statistic. Was that something you did from being a teenager, or something you learned in the minor leagues?
Well, look, the way the game works is that there's a lot of math involved in it, meaning
Yep.
So the count situation. So like I figured out if the count's 0-1, and you take 10 years of players that have had 500 at bats, okay, and you look at what on the average what they're gonna hit. If it's 0-1, they're hit 180. Opposed to 1-0, they're hit 290 or something. Right. So all that stuff comes into play. But the first thing I wanted to say though is I remember when you got traded, we were in Florida.
Yep.
And you came on the bus. It sat right across from me. Okay. And I said, this is dude. And then someone said, he throws some gas, someone said. You remember that? The first.
Yeah. You guys were playing exhibition game down, and we were going to Washington.
Exactly.
Yep.
So, and then the other thing is I want to say, then we get into the see all that stuff that I like. I don't know much about too much, but I know a whole bunch about baseball. Okay, especially I know what it takes to win and how to get on base and all that stuff. But I want to say about Schill. So Schill, look, I love when he pitched because all my friends, my friends after the game when I want to meet my friends, they'd all be excited because they knew that it would be 2 hours and I'd be back. Opposed to, anyways, because Schill was, so one time, then when Schill was pitching, Schill would always walk around and say, "Hey, dude, how you feeling today, man? You feeling good?" This and that. And so one time, Incaviglia sitting next to me says, "Hey, Schill, man, what, you know, what are you asking? Like, why are you asking that you're pitching how he's feeling?" I said, "Hey, Inky, shut the, what up?"
Right.
I said, "I wish I had 5 guys like this. Prepared. He's prepared. We know we were going to get. We had a chance to win every time he was out there. So shut the."
We're gonna edit. You can do your F-bombs. We're gonna edit
you know
this.
What I'm saying, though?
Yep.
But back to your question though. The thing is that 93 team. If you remember, so Billy Bean was just named, who was my roommate in the minor league. He was just named the general manager of Oakland, taking Sandy Alder's job, and so they were at the World Series. And Billy Bean, asked me to go to lunch with them in the World Series, which I would never have done, but he was a good friend.
Right.
And so we went to lunch right by on Broad Street over there. And he said to me, we sat down, he said, "You gave me the recipe." I said, "What?" I said, "What?" He says, "I know now what it takes to win in Major League Baseball." And I said, what do you mean? He said, "Your team was the first team to ever have 4 guys to walk 100 times, and Hollins was just short of 100. So basically
5 guys. Yep.
And, yeah. So and he said, you set the tone, and then the rest followed. Okay. So again, it's
a copycat league too, right? I mean, it's a copycat league, and I think people recognize we didn't lead the league in home runs, we didn't lead the league in any category but getting on base, and they recognize that the top 5 guys in our lineup would wear a starting pitcher out on their own, and we were in bullpens in the 5th inning.
Yeah. Well, see, the thing about it is that season, and again, I'm not bragging, but I mean, a fact's a fact, and this is kind of a good fact. But history means like that dude, like when came over in that boat, that dude that thought the world was flat. That's history, right? What was his name?
Magellan.
Columbus, Christopher Columbus, right?
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, so there's only one left-handed hitter in the history of Major League Baseball to go to the plate more times than any other left-handed hitter.
Right.
And it's not Babe Ruth. It's not Ty Cobb. Okay? It's Lenny effing Dykstra. That's who it is. Okay?
Well,
believe that.
So you scored 143 runs that year. You came in second to Bonds in the MVP, and I thought that if we were to take in postseason play, you're the MVP of the league, in my no question asked. But the fact of the matter is, those 143 runs can't be
145, yeah.
145. They can't be scored if you don't get on base. And you had over 700 at bats, official plate appearances.
773.
That's insane. But again, you set the tone, and I don't think a lot of people understand. And one of the things that I'm going to try and do on this show is explain to people and make them understand things. As a pitcher, there's nothing I love more. There was nothing that I relished more than a 1-pitch out. That was like a gift from God as a pitcher, because I had this game plan. I got to get a hitter out. I got to work this count. I got to do these things. You give me a 1-pitch out, and then I didn't like to face guys like you for this reason. I don't want to have to use 7, 8, 9 pitches to get an out. I don't want, and that was the Tony Gwynn thing. You had the strike zone, but you knew the strike zone, and so my forte. You show me a guy that strikes out 100 times, I can show you a guy I can get out pretty easily because he's got holes. You show me a guy that gets on base 40% of the time, and I'm going to have a little bit of a concern. And you mentioned something that I think tails into the discussion we're going to have today. I worked quick, and so people have asked me about the pitch clock, and I said the pitch clock will never affect a pitcher that sucks, because good pitchers work fast. And if you saw Scherzer yesterday, it was hilarious. He struck a guy out who was backing out of the batter's box. I mean, but that's what we did. Tempo was part of my game. That was part of it's a weapon, and hitter, and not being able to. And I'm wondering, because you were a guy that took time in the bats. You could make a 10-pitch at bat go a while. How are hitters going to have to adjust now? You can only get out of the box one time. You got to be in the, the tempo is going to be a lot quicker, good or bad for hitters.
Bad. I mean, look. I mean, you're talking to a guy. Okay, remember. So when I let off the game on the road, okay, at that moment in time, I controlled everything.
Right.
So when we used to play Atlanta, okay, in Atlanta, I used to take a long sweeping walk, bro, and stop right in front of Ted Turner and Jane Fonda, and stare right into Jane Fonda's eyes, and I'd say some things that I shouldn't say on here, but that was tradition, and people would be yelling, "Get in the box, get in the box," and I'd be like, you know what I'd say to them.
Yep.
And you don't get voted the most hated player in the league 5 years in a row without doing these kind of things.
Right.
But I was voted the most hated player in the league because I made the other people's jobs hard.
Yep.
See, like I say, remember our team? Like I see you talking to the other teammate, we're fighting.
Yeah.
Like, well, we're playing for real money here.
Right.
Like, and the thing about it is, and that's why when you pitched, you were so prepared, took it so serious, it carried out to the field too. Don't forget, when you're out there in the field and you got a guy, I don't want to use people's names.
Guy going 3-2 on everybody, and no, I get that, and that was part of that too, Lenny. I learned on that team because it was a veteran team, and I was a younger guy. Listen, when we're playing in St. Louis and it's 165 degrees on the turf, I need to get my players off the field. And so that became because I always wanted, and as I got older and became more in charge of my defense, I always wanted guys invested in the day I pitched. I love
that. So they always say, play that guy over to the side. Yeah, I'm gonna work his side.
Guys were surprised. I would come. I can remember I went to Luis Gonzalez, who played left field for me in Arizona, and I said, "Listen here, I want you to play here, here, and here on these guys," and it was a very shallow against Tony Gwynn. I had him coming in literally almost behind the shortstop, and he's like, "Dude, what if he hits it over my head?" And I said, "If he hits it over your head, that's on me." Because I'm telling you, I'm going to throw him a fastball down and away. He's going to hit a line drive to left. I need you to catch it. Right. And so you take that level of accountability, and players play differently behind you. You don't play harder or less, but they're more invested. And when you get a guy with your skill set in center field who doesn't want a ball to hit the turf, that helps me.
Yeah. See, so what you're saying, Shill, that's why you are one of the best pitchers ever pitched in the game. And then take the offseason, the postseason, what you did. Like, and again, I'm not saying this because this is your show. I say this to anyone that asks me. Any big game, there's certain people that have. There's something they have when the game's on the line, when everything matters. They rise to the occasion. And Shill, okay, every time he would do that, okay, the big games. And there's certain guys that would fail. So that being said, and the other thing that Shill did, that you did, is, Shill, he gave home runs, but he gave up home runs when they didn't matter. See?
A lot of solos.
Solo shots, okay? Yep. And so what I'm saying is like you said, it's different. You knew when to bear down on a guy and go hard. Just like when I laid off the game, I mean, I had to keep him off. Like the majority of the time, I would take the first pitch all the time. Okay, but once in a while, I have to keep him honest and turn and burn on the first pitch, so they don't just throw a cookie fastball in there.
Yep.
That being said, my job was to get as many pitches out of that pitcher and let the team see that guy.
Yep.
Yeah. And you know what I mean? So,
yep. And that's because from the other end, I didn't want that leadoff hitter up there for extended periods of time because I don't ever want to have to use my full arsenal in the first inning. I don't want to have to use any time I ever had to use 3 or 4 pitches in the different pitches in the first inning. That was a loss for me because I wanted to get out there, establish my fastball, understand the umpire's strike zone for that day, and then start to go to work because I wanted to save that stuff for the second time around. I don't want to have to use all 3 pitches. When you made me, and that was, to me, that was one of the special things about you is, and I learned this lesson from Greg Maddux early in my career. Everybody talks about first pitch strikes, right? The largest difference in count difference, the largest offensive difference in the hitting count is from 2-1 to 1-2. The 1-1 pitch is the most important pitch in an at-bat for a pitcher because the biggest difference in offensive output is in that next pitch. So I never panicked being 1-0 because I could keep the ball out in the middle of the plate. And you're right, I gave up a lot of home runs. I think I set the major league record. I led the league in home runs given up in 01 when we went to the World Series. I gave up 37, but 34 were solo. And exactly. So, you know, and I certainly didn't try to give them up, but you know what? When it's 7-0, I'm not going to dick around, right? I'm going to throw fastballs down and away. If you go up on me, well, you know what? I got the ball up too much, but hang with him. Next guy.
Yeah, I like that, dude. So what you said makes so much sense. And again, this is getting more into the details of the game and the little things. See, the game's played off the scoreboard, okay? And players don't do that now. I mean, the scoreboard should dictate what you do. Like, I mean, I see players now in the 9th inning down 2 runs, okay? And the guy leading off, he knows he's going to get a first pitch fastball. So he's going to go ahead and swing at it. Right. And by the way, you can't hit a 2-run homer with no one on base. And the odds are, okay, even if you hit it, okay, there's a 70%, if you're the best hitter, 70% chance you're going to hit it at somebody. Right. Okay. So that's just being selfish right there. Okay. So I don't ever see guys take a strike now in the 9th inning when they're down more than a run. But again, though, the 1-1 pitch is the pitch, dude. You are so right, because as a hitter, 1-2 is a death sentence. Right. Because you can bring anything. You can bring anything. You know what I mean? Especially when you're facing power guys, right? When you have to protect against the 90s. That's why I always used to say, I never talked to you guys or asked you guys this, but I always felt like against the Braves, the only guy you were concerned about facing in October was Schmaltz. Glavine, no. Maddox, no. Avery, no. But Schmaltz was the power guy, and he could make you swing and miss. Yeah, so Schmaltz, so a good story about Schmaltz, so you brought him up. One of my favorite moments is, so we're playing in the bat. Schmaltz is throwing a no-hitter, okay, into the 9th. Not a perfect game, okay, because he walked me once, okay, a no-hitter into the 9th. So, no-hitter, that's a big deal for a pitcher, right? Yeah. I mean, no-hitter. So Schmaltz, okay, so it's at the bottom of the 9th, they're up 6-0, okay, and I'm up 3rd, okay. So first 2 guys, I mean, he just mows them down like red-headed stepchildren. Boom, boom, boom. Go to your room. So now I'm up. Now remember, he's 1 out away from a no-hitter, dude. And he knows I'm the only guy that can hurt him, okay? And so I know he's going to snap a hook off the first pitch, okay? Greg Olson's catching, okay? And then he snaps off a hook, just a nose-to-toe snap. Filthy slider. I'm waiting for to hear a strike and call the ball. Call the ball. So I said, you know what? He's going to try to stick some cheese in here, inner half. Watch. He's feeling good. He did, dude. And he tried, and I hit a glass ball, like a laser, off the plate. It isn't off the glass. Got to second base, and he was walking around the mound kind of pounding. I took my shoe out and I threw it at him. I said, "You dumb." Yeah. So that, because dude, he's feeding for a pitcher, right? Yep. 1 out away from a no-hitter. That's how I lost mine. I lost mine with 2 outs in the bottom of the 9th. Oh, did you really? Yep. Wow. Yeah. The only pitch I shook off Veritek the entire game. How is he, Vera? How is he? He's good. He's coaching with the Sox, and he's going to be a manager at some point. He was the only guy I ever pitched to that put as much time and effort into studying hitters as I did. Right? Yeah. Oh, he was unbelievable. He had his notebooks just like I did, and there's a reason the guy caught, I think, 4 no-hitters, and he had like 7 games he took into the bottom of the 9th with a no-hitter. You know, no-hitters, some really crappy pitchers have thrown no-hitters, right? Yeah. I mean, but a guy like Nolan Ryan who threw 7, that's not an accident. Tech caught more no-hitters than anybody and had more no-hitters than anybody going to the 9th. And there's a reason for that. Yeah, he was Nolan Ryan hated me, dude. He hated me. Yeah. Well, I mean, like I said, I don't have a problem with a hitter if he punches out 100 times. I don't care what your other numbers are. If you punch out 100 times, you got holes I can find. If you walk 140 times, I got problems, because that tells me you don't chase the pitches. You know, Maddox always said the key to pitching is to throw a ball when the hitter's swinging and a strike when he's taking. And when a guy walks 140 times, that's not a predictable thing. So that makes it the challenge on me. I had the most comfortable 0 for 4s off Maddox I ever had. That was so crazy. And I bet you there's thousands of guys saying the same thing. I mean, yep. I'm glad when he pitched, I wanted to catch it and throw it back to him. You know? but he played the game right. You know, he played the game right. He didn't walk people because when he played the game right, so it's kind of like that chain link. You know, it's so smooth.
I got to tell you though, I still hold a grudge against Maddox when he broke your hand opening day in '92.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, because that ended our season.
I didn't get along with Maddox too well, but
well, that's not
too well. But the only wife that liked me on our team was Shonda, thank God.
I think your reputation preceded you in many cases. But you know what? It didn't matter because it's like I said, as I went through my career, I didn't worry about all the bullshit. For me, it was, listen, all the stuff with Manny, that would have been, if I would have had to worry about, I think Manny showed up, he had 330 with 40 bombs and 140 ribbies. I don't care about the other stuff. So what? Because you're getting paid to win.
Be friends with everybody. It's 25 people. You can't be friends with everybody.
Nope.
But if you do your job, it's all about the results.
Yep.
It's all about results.
Oh, my. He is one of a kind, if there ever was one. So thanks to Lenny for that. We're going to close the show out this week talking about a couple things. First of all, unfortunately, there are bad eggs in every nest. And CB Buckner, who is an umpire in Major League Baseball, is one of those. He's never, ever been a good ump. I have multiple stories about CB Buckner that I will share someday. But apparently, Cardinal manager Oliver Marmol, who CB had confronted and had run-ins with a couple different times, went to home plate to exchange the lineup cards, and Oliver extended his hand to CB to shake, and CB didn't do it. And I would say that I'm stunned by that, but I'm not really stunned by that because he's always been a guy who, he doesn't belong in the big leagues. I can tell you that. He's never been a guy who I believe had Major League Baseball quality talent, and I saw many stories to support that. So that was unfortunate. And also, game started, so we've got stuff happening. I want to talk about, real quick, hit on a couple kids. Brett Brady, who is one of the top 20-some prospects in all of baseball, certainly somebody the Mets are hoping vies for that third base job and wins it. Homered in his first spring training at bat. Nathan Eovaldi, who, my goodness, what an arm. Tossed 2 perfect innings, punched out 4. Vlad Guerrero Jr., ho-hum, 432-foot homer. And you're going to hear me talk about this all year long. The Baltimore Orioles, I think, have a massive stable of young talent. I have actually placed a futures bet on the Baltimore Orioles as World Series champs with really good odds. Heston Kjerstad, who was their number 2 pick 3 years ago, hit 2 home runs and went 3 for 3. Jackson Holliday, son of Matt Holliday, who was the number 1 pick in 2022, doubled in his first at-bat. I'm telling you, at the plate and on the mound, these guys are going to have an amazing stable of talent. Yoan Duran, a Twins reliever, threw a 10-pitch inning, and he threw 4 four-seam fastballs. All 4 were clocked at 101. Velocity is still a sexy.
It's February, Curt.
Right, I know.
He threw 4 pitches at 101 in February.
Right, and I would say that's awesome, but the one time I was that good in spring training and throwing not that hard, but that was the one time that I spent most of the year on the disabled list because I was putting way too much effort way too early. Garrett Mitchell, the number 5 prospect in Major League Baseball. For you Brewer fans out there, oh boy, what a legit talent. He hit 2 home runs in the first game of the spring. And then for those that didn't, well, no one saw it because it wasn't televised, but the Tigers turned a 6-3, 5-2 triple play. And as someone who actually was on the mound for 2 triple plays, 2 unassisted triple plays, that's pretty cool. Going to finish the day, and this might shock some people, going to finish the day talking about a Yankee prospect. And the only reason I'm talking about him for 2 reasons. Number 1, he has a phenomenally cool nickname, which is the Martian. And there are so many things and ways to go with that. I'm not really sure. But anyway, he hit a 420-foot bomb yesterday. He's somebody to keep an eye on this spring. Won't break with the club, but he's certainly a bat to watch if you're a Yankee fan. All right, Billy, that was fun. That will do it for this week.
Really good day. good week so far, Curt. We come back Friday
See you Friday.
with another one.
Yep.
So we'll see you then.
Yep.
Keep an eye on OutKick.com.
Yep. At OutKick.com, we'll have all the spring training news every day, and we are back on Friday with episode 3. So goodbye. God bless. Have a great week, guys.